times, and that innovation kind of comes out when it needs to. So we are ahead of schedule, but Miss Aisha Horne would actually be down to start a little bit early. So I'm going to pass the mic to her, and we are going to kick off our alumni showcase, and the showcase will last until around 8:30 tonight, before we have our membership mixer. So you'll be seeing a new face at least every 30 minutes or so, and folks will be talking about their business, how FAMU has impacted them, and how you can either support them or shop with them. So Miss Aisha, whenever you feel free, go ahead to jump in.
Cool. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good morning on my side, and good afternoon to everybody else. I'm over in LA. I'm Aisha Horne, and I am a video editor and assistant editor in scripted and unscripted content. One of the things I want to do is just start off with a video real fast and show you guys a little bit about what I do. So here we go. All right, so that's actually my editing reel. What I do on a daily basis is I work in post production. And post production is pretty much the department that puts together everything that your directors and your writers put together. So that showed a little bit of the clientele that I've worked with. I've worked with individuals like Honda. I've worked with um, into, as you can see, too, they even have a post production department in house. So I've been blessed to do a lot. I graduated from Florida A&M University in 2008, and I was in the broadcast journalism program. And that was a time, honestly, where it was really hard for us to kind of get our stride. That was when the crash happened, and unfortunately, a lot of us we're not able to get our career going, unfortunately. So for me, I was blessed to get my first job at ESPN, and I was able to be a PA. And what I did there was I was working as almost basically like an associate producer, but our title was a little bit different. So I did segments for some of the NASCAR races and the NASCAR Countdown show, and I was able to work with like NBA Fast Break and different things like that. Also, when I interned as an editor, so that was the beginning of my career. And what happened was I wanted to work in film and television, so I transitioned and moved to Los Angeles in 2011. And since then, I've been able to work in different parts of the media. So I've worked in advertising. I've been able to work in reality TV, visual content for companies like Blavity, or like I said, True. And I've also now been working in scripted. So I've worked on a Lifetime Christmas movie recently. And now I work on this show called Young Rock. You might have heard about it. It's Dwayne Johnson, The Rock show on NBC, which is about him growing up, basically. And on that show, I'm an assistant editor. And so what I do on a daily basis is on that show is I work with my editor, and we get those episodes cranked out. We put everything together and get the episodes to you guys on NBC. One of the things that I really wanted to touch on as far as working in Hollywood and how to get here it definitely was a lot of work for me, honestly. For me, I didn't have clear guidance on how to get to where I wanted to be, which was the scripted TV, what I'm doing right now. So I had to touch all these different pieces of media in order to get there. So one thing that I would say that people need to be aware of is that if you are trying to get into the industry, you need to make sure that your network is as large as you can get it. But with that network, you want to have meaningful relationships. If you don't have meaningful relationships, there won't be people who will actually look out for you. You want to make sure that you're a resource to the people that you also are networking with. For me, that helped me tremendously. Once my network was in the field that I really wanted to be in, with the help of some people bringing me in to meet different people, I was able to get the skill sets that I needed. So the other thing is taking your skill sets and transferring them to what you want to do. You need to know what you want to do. So for me, I knew I wanted to be scripted, and I already had skill sets with editing. So that meant for me is that I needed to learn from other people how to do workflows, how to learn different softwares. And so I started reaching out to my network and just asking to spend time, asking to take people to lunch or dinner because coffee is not that much for a lot of people. So I would ask, hey, can I take you to dinner and talk about workflows? And that actually works. The other thing I would say is that you need to be knowledgeable about if you need to be in a union to work in whatever field you want to. If you want to be a DP, if you want to work in the camera area, you need to know what it takes to be in that union. For me, it took a lot of digging, but once I found out what I needed to do as far as being an assistant editor and editor in the scripting world, then I could knock out those things that I needed. So for me, it was making sure I had my hours that I needed to have in order to get into post production. So knowing what you want to do and finding out if a union is involved is super important. Um, the other thing is when you're trying to build your networks, a lot of jobs and a lot of networking events are happening in Facebook groups, believe it or not. So majority of the jobs that I see that I apply for, they're not on LinkedIn. They're in Facebook groups. So reach out to those individuals, your rattlers that are in Los Angeles if you're trying to make it into Hollywood, and ask them if they have any suggested Facebook groups. Those are literally the key in order to get those jobs, those first jobs, and also the major jobs that you want often. We basically pass our resumes through Facebook Messenger, which is crazy, but that's honestly the main way that I've been able to get positions. Um, and then the other thing I would say is always stay on top of your craft. I work in post production, so for me, it's always learning different software. So, like you saw on my reel, I am often working on learning new softwares like After Effects, Avid, learning the new workflows in Avid or Premiere. And so for me, it's just really important for you to know your stuff so that when the opportunity comes, you can just jump on it and then you're well prepared. And then also have your network of people who you can ask questions. For me, working on this show, and especially a new show, I've been able to reach out to people when I have questions. So if I have a question about a certain workflow that I'm about to work on that day or the next day, I reach out to my circle and I'm like, hey, I'm doing this. So having those individuals who you can reach out on a dime to is super important. And lastly, because I've been able to touch on all of these different things in my industry, I've been blessed to start a nonprofit called the Hue Collective. And so, what we do at the Hue Collective is we teach young kids who are kids of color how to edit. It's basically an organization where we're going to teach them all the different softwares in post production so that we can have more kids interested in this field. What I found, what I found also with being a teacher is that if these kids often don't know about these different positions. I've worked so many different positions in the post-production field in so many different pieces of the media that I've been able to make my way in Los Angeles and not be like a starving artist. So what we have to do is we have to expose the kids to these positions and get them trained early so that they can be ready when it's time for them to graduate from high school or from college. Because you don't have to have a degree in order to work in post production. And why take out loans when you don't have to, right? So if you want to know more about the Hue Collective and what we're doing, please check out www.thehuecollective.com. And there you'll see everything that we've been doing thus far. We're going to be working with a program in Daytona Beach this April where they basically help out kids who have dropped out of high school. So we're going to be training them on editing with Adobe Premiere, which is a professional software. So they're not learning anything that's not going to prepare them to actually have a job. And then we're also going to Alabama to teach some kids right outside of Montgomery who don't have a lot of extracurricular activities at their school. And they're going to be learning Adobe Premiere as well. So that's what we do. And that's what I do. So if you have any questions in regards to how to make it in LA or different Facebook groups, maybe, just let me know. And you can also, after this, email me through my contact on ashahorne.com, and I'll answer any questions in regards to Hollywood or even post production. So just let me know.
Thank you so much for that intro. I just want to say you are so dope, and I hope you don't mind me asking you a few questions if we
Oh,
kind
good.
of go off the rip here. Can you see me? I can't see myself on the screen. There we go.
Oh,
Okay. So, you guys don't know, but we actually were together at Journey Magazine, Florida A&M Campus Magazine. I was the art director, and Miss Aisha was one of the editors. And we had a good old time in the new building because it was brand new when we got there. So my question, I have a couple of questions for you specifically about the J School. Was there any lessons that you learned in the J School that you could potentially talk to prospective students about? What are those lessons, and how have they helped you kind of navigate in the new space?
sure. I think the main thing that I learned from family is just to reinvent yourself. Um, what we had to do for Journey was always try to be as cool and fly as possible, but also come up with story ideas that would touch our audience. And so that's something that I've carried along in my career. Because I'm always thinking about how I'm projecting myself, I'm projecting my talents, and how I can get people to hire me. Because one of the things about being a freelancer is that you have to be inventive and you have to be on your toes when you're trying to get people to like you in a short amount of time because you want to get hired again. So I think that's one thing that I learned from family, and then also just really working hard. We worked hard, long hours in that little office that we had, and I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm not afraid of working late, and not to say you should overwork yourself, but I think my perseverance came from what we did at FAMU, what we had to do to make something great. And so, and as you know, we got awards for Journey year after year, and that was because we put hard work into it. We loved what we did, and I'm always learning. That was something that we were always doing. I wasn't even. There were times where I helped with the design because we needed an extra body. So like I'm always happy about um, learning and learning something new, and that's not a problem for me. And I think if you are always down to reinvent yourself,
Mhm.
then you're not going to have a problem with your career path, whatever it may be, or however it may change.
Definitely, Ashe. I agree with everything that you talked about, and you're right. That hard work is definitely one of those values, and maybe is organically given to you, like as you're a rattler. Because I remember sleeping. I don't know if I should say
Yeah,
this, falling asleep because we had worked so hard on whichever. I think it was the Greek
it's
uh,
just
magazine that we did, and I don't know if that was the one that actually won the award, but I remember falling asleep, and because we had just worked so hard and we were so passionate about that. So definitely find whatever passion that you have. Um, and follow that, because you'll need it to help you get through. And another thing, and maybe you can talk to this as well, we actually experienced a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
Um, Granted, we were passionate about it and we were hardworking, but there was a lot of pushback about a specific story. I still get nightmares about the story. Oh my God. Um, can you talk, how to navigate adversity, especially if you're in a new arena?
Yeah. I think definitely with that, we were very passionate about what the message was, and we knew we were right. I think knowing that you've done everything right is the first thing. When you know that you're on the right side of things, um, that's the first motivation, because you know you have to get this message out, and that's and I think and on an everyday work level, the adversity is going to come. The adversity is going to come, especially if you're a person of color or you're black and you're in Hollywood. There's a lot of pushback as far as what we do. Being black in post production, we're like less than 5% of who works in post production, which is why I have an organization to teach more kids, because we need more influence in the background. These are people who are cutting your pictures together, and they might not know the nuances of being a black person, what we might see. So you have to push past the adversity and and push for what you know is right. So for me, I want to tell stories, and I want to tell stories about myself, and I think that it should be us behind the camera also influencing that, because this influences our youth and this influences our future kids or our kids. So you have to find that thread, I think,
Okay.
that helps you push.
I love that. And that thread is also just consistency, and just showing up as your authentic self.
Yep.
I know that that has helped me, just kind of in the corporate and tech space, but definitely having that consistent thread. And the other question I wanted to ask you is, can you talk to us a little bit about maybe some of the biggest wins of your career so far?
Ooh, okay. Lately, I've been hitting those wins. There's a saying out here that you hit your 10-year mark, and then that's when things break for you. Honestly, that's true almost for me as well. I've been out here 10 years, since 2011, and I got into the union, which was something that was so hard for me to figure out for a little bit. So getting in the union last year was a major break for me. Working on my first TV movie, that was major,
Hey.
and that was last year. And then working on new shows. It's a brand new show. Um, Young Rock is it's about the Rock.
That's big.
Come on, like that's major, and I'm just so proud that I have pushed myself to get to the point that I took something on that it's a hard show. So I'm proud that I've pushed through, that I can handle it, that I went to FAMU and I'm working on this. Like it's just it's something that I'm very proud of. So I would say those three things are my major career things, and then now to be able to give back and provide other kids with the opportunity with the youth collective. So those are my major.
That's so selfless. Like biggest part of your win would be to give back. I love that. That's awesome. And I'm also proud of you as someone that served with you. We served at that magazine. Um,
Yes,
as someone who served with you, to see you be fulfilled in your career at this point, that's totally amazing. And I just want to say that. Another question. I actually have two more questions for you. In terms of now, I know that a lot of movies and everything go to my hometown, Atlanta, Georgia. Um, does someone have to go to LA or Atlanta to kind of follow your path, or can they be anywhere?
I think right now there's a lot of flexibility that's happening because of COVID. Um, we even have like the opportunity to possibly work on the East Coast. I know there are editors who are working everywhere, and they are able to just ship over the software and everything. You can work in Atlanta if you want to work in production, especially. All of the shows are shooting in Atlanta for the most part. All the movies are shooting. in Atlanta also. So
Hmm.
I think the biggest thing you have to realize is just like I said, you have to figure out what do you need in order to get in the unit if you want to work on the scripted side. You can
Got it.
always get opportunity for reality because that's not a script, that's not a union based um, type of. Those aren't union based shows, so
Got
you
it.
don't have to have certain credentials. You just need to be able to do the job. So if you can shoot, then you can get your resume together, get your stuff on IMDb. Whatever project that you worked on that have aired should be on there. Make sure you have all that information done. Make sure you have a resume that fits the entertainment style.
Okay.
You have a question on that, just hit me up on hhorne.com. I will definitely give you my resume is on there. You can see it, and you can also ask me questions on to why I did certain things. I'm always down to get info, but you can definitely make it in Atlanta. I mean, even now I'm looking at myself like, how can I shift over back to the East Coast because houses are much cheaper. So, it's definitely opening up more opportunity. Even if you want to be a writer, writer rooms right now are virtual; they're not in the office. So you can get an opportunity to be a writer's assistant and
Mm.
be virtual. You just need to meet the times that your writer needs you. So there's ample opportunity now to get in there. And I would say the biggest thing is to get in those Facebook groups. I'll post some of them once we finish
Okay.
too. But like this one called Ujima, one of my friends runs it. She's in connection with a bunch of different studios and stuff, and a lot of information gets talked about in there.
Okay.
And there are some other organizations that are also in touch because now people want people of color, especially Black people, since COVID, to be a representative in their company. So this is our time to uh, get in there if you can. And yes, take advantage if you can and answer because the housing market is terrible.
That's really interesting that now Black people are in vogue. And
Oh
I
yeah.
see that also in the tech field. So outside of FAMU, like I build applications for Silicon Valley companies, and I've definitely seen an uptick on wanting more women of color and just Black people in general. And it's just like we've always kind of been amazing. So or you're just now seeing us, but we've been here, and it's interesting to hear that in your industry that is still happening. Well, that is the new norm. Um, and so I think just, I'm sorry if this question is redundant, but I just want to make sure. So if someone doesn't necessarily have the formal education, what is the very first step that they can take into going down your path?
Okay. The very first step that you should take is honestly understand what the position entails. So you need to understand what you're trying to do. So once you understand what you're trying to do, then you need to start reaching out to the organizations that can help you. So we have an organization called CSAF that they basically give you all the credentials needed if you want to be in the union. And then we have some other nonprofits that help adults. So we have an organization called the Handy Foundation. Guy, I know, black guy, and he's helping people of color get into post production. So he's providing free training if you're chosen, and then they help you get placed career wise. So I'll also drop that in as well. So there are ways now because COVID has really unleashed a bunch of things that can help in our favor. So now you have more opportunities to see the information because it wasn't really visible for us, and now you're getting also assistance. So I will definitely drop those in. But those are the two steps. Know, understand what you want to do, and then you can start to create a plan. So now you're like, if I want to be an editor, if I want to be an assistant editor in scripted, you look it up. For me, it was, oh, okay, I know. Now I need to get hours so that I can be eligible. And once I got the hours, then I knew that I could now just pay for my dues and get in. There's steps to it. So that's the major thing is finding out what those steps are to be in whatever union position that you're
That makes sense. That's a very clear cut path. And so the other thing I want to talk about is since you are freelance,
in. Yes,
a lot of people see the glamour because I asked you about your big career wins and all that kind of stuff and all the big names and all that. But being a freelancer can be challenging. And so like sometimes if you're a freelancer, you're not necessarily on W-2, right? You're on 1099. And you know, what does that journey look like? So you talked one thing about you were able to go to LA and not be a starving artist.
Yeah.
Can you kind of break that down a little bit of how you were able to kind of navigate that and still be successful?
Yeah, I think for me, because I'm always a strategic planner. I think ahead like 5 years. I always jump ahead. And so for me, when I was at FAM, one of the main focuses for me was to learn how to edit and to understand that software. So at that time, it was Final Cut 7. We were cutting just for news and for documentary. So I made sure when I left, I knew how to edit. And the reason why is because at that time, I wanted to go to film school. And I knew that I did not want to pay for my film, which would be like upwards 100K. Um, so for me, if I was an editor on that film, I'm not responsible, but I also still get my degree, and I also still get to learn how to be a director, writer, whatever it was. At that time, I wanted to write tech. So I was like, how can I get some skill where I don't have to pay, and then also I can work while I'm there? So what happened for me was that I was able to get positions at, say, like Blavity. At Blavity, I can edit small little vignettes and get paid a decent wage and pay for my rent and live by myself. Um,
That's important. Living by yourself.
yes. And so, because like when I first got here, I was not living by myself. I was definitely a sovereign artist for just a little bit, but I was blessed because I had the skill sets that were necessary to have a decent wage. So a skill that's needed by any type of media platform is editing. I can go work for Chewy. I can go work for a healthcare company that has a in-house production company. So for me, that was the game plan. How can we pay for stuff, still work on our skill sets, and then get to where I want to get? And for me, that was editing. And what happened was I just started to love editing, and I didn't want to write anymore. And I was like, all right, well, we're not going to write, or we can write on the side and have fun with it. But my thing is editing, and that's how I was able to transition. And once I got into a training program at a ad company,
Mm-hmm.
I was an assistant, basically assistant editor, and I was underneath the sole editor at that ad company, and I just was helping her with whatever her cuts were or compressing files. Like I was getting paid
Dirty
each
work.
day just to do like small things. And I can, and now I can do very small, minimal things and get a decent wage. So it's really about how you strategize what skill set is necessary so that when you get to wherever you want to go, you can make decent money.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really interesting because that is a consistent tone through a lot of the experiences of other rattlers that you'll see today in terms of the alumni spotlight, where they didn't necessarily start off in one particular area, but they transitioned into something that they loved and they were able to flourish. And the same thing for me. Like I actually went to school for graphic design, but then I just wind up doing coding and becoming a developer and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like totally different path, but I still use those skills every single day. Um, and so, oh yes, so you do a panel discussion for the J School. Can
Yeah.
you quickly kind of talk about what that looks like and recruit some rattlers while you're at it?
Yeah. So what we're doing right now, we're doing a series of panels about transferable skills, which is what we're basically talking about right now. A lot of us will start off with a certain position that we thought we wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do hard news. That was wrong. So for me, I think it's important for people to understand that there are so many positions that you can transfer your skills to, or take some of the skills and then build upon it. Let it be your foundation. So what we're doing is we're taking all of the different sequences at J School, and we're bringing in people to talk about how they've transitioned to where they are now, or how they've taken their skill sets and brought it to a bigger platform than what we might have seen in school. Because in school, they gave us kind of a general, like, you can be a reporter, you can be an editor for a magazine, and things of that sort. Um, but a lot of people aren't doing that. but they're still using their skill set. So we want to show people that you can make a good wage doing something just a little skewed from what you were doing.
I think that is really important because I just remember, so when we were in school, kind of telling our age a little bit, but we still don't, we don't really look our age per se, but um, it was an end of like the end of the dot-com boom, also the end of the printing,
Yes.
web publishing, newspapers, all that stuff. Like we were literally working on a printed magazine together. And fast forward, I always wondered what it would look like for a journalism student to kind of, not to say that you can't use those skills anymore, but you're not, the big papers aren't really like Vibe magazine and all that. So I'm really glad to see that you all are moving that forward. Is that an actual initiative from the J School themselves, or is this self-organized amongst alumni?
It's alumni. We went to homecoming, talked to some of the kids, and heard what they were saying, and we wanted to give them more knowledge in what they were receiving. And we're out here, and we honestly, the individuals that started the panels, we're all from 2008, and
Okay.
as you know, like that was hard with that transition. You thought I honestly thought I was going to work for Essence at one point, and it's like
Mm,
no Essence at that point. Um, so I think because we've all had to transition, redefine ourselves and take our skills to the next level so many times in these last 15 years that we understand what people need in order to survive. Because
yes.
we had to survive. So that's what we're trying to do, and that's why we wanted to do it.
I love it. I love it. And I will be a part of that panel soon.
Yeah,
So I am very
yeah.
excited to kind of talk about my transition into tech and how I started off in art basically. Well, it's the degree I actually had is graphic design, the science of graphic design. So it'll be interesting to talk to you and kind of do this again. And we are actually extremely early. So the promptness of the Rattlers is just amazing. But we kind of do have a little blank spot in here. So we'll wrap up this interview and then we'll break for 15 minutes. And then we are going to have Josh McNeil come on and talk about how he got from political science. He'll keep me honest when he comes on, from political science to social work. So that'll be next. But Miss Aisha, thank you so much for your time today. And again, I'm so proud of you. I'm glad to see that you're doing big things, giving back, whether they're the little ones or and also just current rattlers that are on the hill, because that is a very important thing to have those transferable skills. And also again, like linking into that social capital piece that I spoke about earlier, like that is something that is priceless.
Oh
So
yeah,
priceless.
especially in our network. I mean, I've done so many different. I've done a camp with one of your panelists, Jimmy Thomas, and we worked together to help kids across the country have something to do during COVID and training and different things. So I think it's very important to connect. I mean, even in my reel, I have certain rattlers that you may have recognized that I've been able to work with, and we've been able to do things together and make things happen. So, yeah.
Can't pay for that at all. And so I'm going to quickly open it up to see if we have any questions for Miss Aisha Horne regarding post production, film, J school stuff, giving back. Do y'all want to put some money in her collection plate? All of that stuff. Do we have any questions? Alrighty. So we don't have any questions for her, but we will go ahead and take a 10-minute break. And so if you guys can, I'm gonna act like we on Clubhouse. I don't know if you guys are on Clubhouse, but it's an amazing thing. There's an option for you to ping people into the room, which is basically sharing it. So our attendance is a little bit low right now. So if everybody that can hear my voice share this video, this is FAMU House.